We are back with Dick Brennan, and of course we have to talk about the governor's race. Kathy Hochul is going to face a primary in her own party, her lieutenant governor. But more important, there's going to be a Republican primary, which is sort of unusual because they try to avoid primaries. But they have two good candidates. They have Lee Stefanik from upstate and Bruce Blakeman. What's your take on all this?
What's interesting?
Why is Bruce Blakeman doing this?
Well, because maybe he has a good shot, possibly. Let's look at the numbers here. A couple of weeks ago, there was a poll that said that Hochul got, I think, 49%. But that means she's not over the hump. And then that the second part was like 25% undecided, and then 25% for the Republican. So it's funny you mentioned. I did ask Mike Lawler this question when I said,
what did he say?
And he said, I said, but hey, how does Republicans make up 25 points? He said, listen, Lee Zeldin was in the same boat, and
he lost by only 6
points. Now, it's a very different environment now, but, Lee Zeldin used the crime issue to great degree, and you could still, to some degree.
But here's the question. As you know, the large majority of voters in New York are Democrats. So how difficult is it for a Republican to beat an incumbent governor?
I don't have to tell you this, but you know how it works. You have to hopefully, and you can't really depress the vote in New York, but you have to hope for a lower vote in New York. You have to run up the score for Republicans, Long Island, Nassau, Suffolk, and then the Hudson Valley in the suburbs.
Who has a better chance of taking on Kathy Hochul, Bruce Blakeman or Lee Stefanik?
Well, if you look at what I just said, you'd certainly say it was Blakeman. Now, the problem with Blakeman is he needs to get his face on television more, to put it bluntly, right. And he will. And we know him because he's been around forever in politics, and we've seen him. But the average person doesn't necessarily know him. Hey, the average person probably doesn't know Lee Stefanik, but she has a much bigger national image. And how interesting was it when the president of the United States, I mean, Lee Stefanik has been so loyal to Donald Trump, and when he sat there and said, oh, they're both good candidates. And then when he sat there and said, no, what she said about Mamdani is not true.
But there are also reports that he also called Blakeman and suggested he shouldn't run.
Well, that is possible. You also have to wonder, I mean, Lawler didn't run either, you know, and he's supporting Stefanik.
Lawler, I think, saw the handwriting on the wall and realized he's young and he didn't need to do it this time.
Well, no, he certainly is young. But, I mean, I think you could have a really good primary. And I don't believe in this philosophy. Everyone says, oh, this is great because there's going to be a primary. The Republicans are split. You know, a lot of times, when was the last time, Marcia, the Rose Garden strategy worked? It never works.
Can you say Andrew Cuomo?
Andrew Cuomo, there it is. But you start with Jimmy Carter and take it all the way to Andrew Cuomo, for those of us who remember Jimmy Carter that far back. But that strategy never works. It reminds me sorry, football analogy, they call it the prevent defense. Just back off all your defense. Let them take all the short balls.
But so how much does the gubernatorial race affect Kathy Hochul's decisions as she goes into a tough legislative session? A new mayor who wants everything. And, you know, there's some, I think, belief in Albany that affordability is something they should deal with.
Well, affordability, it's all affordability. Now, Kathy Hochul has to make the decision and say, okay, do I try to run up the score in the cities? Okay, and then Zoran Mamdani will presumably, they'll all work together very closely. Or do I say, hey, I could probably get something in the suburbs, and there are a lot of voters there, too. So she's got to split that, and that is not easy to do. Now, she starts way ahead because you said the Democrats, there were so many more Democrats in New York. And so she starts up here. You know, I remember, was it Ann Richards who said about George Bush, he doesn't know he was born on third base. You know, she's not born on third base. She might be on second base with the amount of Democrats. So
did you ever have a favorite governor?
That's a good question, but I'm going to pull a twist on you here. I'm going to say Nelson Rockefeller, and everyone's going to say...
You knew Nelson Rockefeller?
No, unfortunately, I didn't know Nelson, but I have a good Nelson Rockefeller story. Rocky, as he was known. So my father was a deputy sheriff, city of New York, okay? And back in the day, they used to arrest the union chiefs if they went on strike. And all the unions went on strike in the late 60s. And my father somehow, you know, civil cop, he went and arrested John Delury, the sanitation commissioner, okay? Puts him in a local jail. Rockefeller, who wants to show up Lindsay, says, hey, I want to talk to Delury and negotiate a settlement in the strike. My father brings Delury over to Rockefeller's office. Now, my father grew up as poor as you can get, okay? Rockefeller comes in, Sheriff, sit down. Sheriff, can I get you a coffee? And my father sits there and goes, the richest man in America is serving me coffee. I've made it. He says, but when they're done, Rocky says, okay, we're going downstairs to see the press. They get to the street. Rockefeller turns to my father and goes, hey, Sheriff, he goes, I got to make this look good. there's a guy selling coffee over there. I'm going to go buy some. You got a quarter? And my father says, and the SOB never paid me back.
I love it. That's a great story.
That was it.
So when we talk about, the governor's race in 2026, we're also talking about the attempt by a number of congressmen to change the dynamic in New York. So we have 2 seats, Nadler and Velazquez, where people are retiring. And you have 2 other seats, sitting congressmen, Richie Torres and Dan Goldman, who are being challenged by the left. And I wonder if you think that that's, given the fact that the Republicans are trying to hold on to control in the House, is it a smart strategy on the part of the Democrats to try to defeat 2 people who have a good reputation and are well respected in Washington?
I think there's such confidence among the Democrats that they couldn't possibly lose the Torres seat or the Goldman seat or any of these seats for that matter.
But Brad Lander, with the backing of Mamdani, is challenging Dan Goldman.
Well, there's a lot of speculation as to why he's doing that, and a lot of head scratching to the point where, you have 2 very competent, very popular guys. So you'd say, why would you be challenging that guy? There is some speculation that perhaps he wasn't going to be in the administration, so he had to land somewhere. But obviously, Marcia, you're hitting on a very important question here. Does it make a lot of sense to start messing with the people who are successful? Richie Torres is very successful, knows what he's doing. Why would you mess with these people? It's a fair question.
But the new mayor is backing the challengers. Like, why is that smart?
Well, I don't know. Let's face it, whatever he's done lately, he's done pretty well. So maybe he has a strategy we don't know. I tend to agree with you if that's what you're saying. I think you're perhaps playing with a little fire. But once again, I think they're sitting there going, we're not going to lose the seat no matter who runs. Not always smart to think that way, though.
So let's talk about the Nadler seat. There's he's retiring. And
the 12 people running?
A gazillion people. But one of them is Jack Schlossberg, who is the son of Caroline Kennedy.
Yeah. You know what's funny about, Irish Catholic, I can tell you everything about Kennedys, backwards, forwards, and sideways. So I have the fascination with the Kennedys. I think a lot of people, particularly people our age.
Does he have a shot?
Of course he has a shot. He's another guy on social media. But he's put some strange stuff on social media. And his answer is, I don't know what his answer is, but according to the New York Times, it was sort of an alter ego. I just tuned in a couple of days ago, and there's a bunch of social media influencers who go around the city and show you buildings, and this guy I've seen on social media, all of a sudden I said, who is that standing next to him? It was Jack Schlossberg, and they were talking about what Jackie Onassis did for the city, and it was great stuff, and it drew me right in. Now, does that translate? Have we gone beyond the nepotism stage? Because let's face it, the next generations of Kennedys, really the second generation, they haven't done great.
But see, here you have a situation where there's like 10 or 12 people who want the job. So they dilute each other. Michael Lasher is the one that
presumed favorite, maybe.
Jerry Nadler has endorsed him, but that doesn't mean anything. And if you have all these people splitting the vote, if somebody can mobilize the young vote, the newer generation, maybe that helps them.
Yeah, like I said, I don't know how many of the new generation that Jack Schlossberg, the name Schlossberg, or even his connections to Kennedy really matter. But the family is always...
But he has a social media presence.
He has that presence. He looks like his uncle, JFK Jr., and there is that sort of older people vote, and I think that might matter. But still, there are a lot of competent people running for that seat.
That's true.
And a lot of money is going to be spent.
So last but not least...
Oh, boy. Here we go. Wait, she saved it for last.
No, Cardinal O'Connor was asked to... He handed in his resignation, and Pope Leo decided to accept his resignation. I'm sorry, Dolan.
Dolan,
I'm sorry.
yeah, it's Dolan. Yeah,
and Pope Leo accepted Dolan's resignation. I think disappointing him, because... what I'm hearing is that he wanted to at least serve until June, so it was 50 years in the priesthood. I'm wondering what your take on it is, and what you think it means for New York Catholics.
Well, for one, we understand Bishop Hicks, who will soon to be the Archbishop, is an extremely able man who speaks Spanish very well and will be really be appealing to the Spanish-speaking communities here, the very Catholic communities in our city. It looks like a wonderful choice. As for the Cardinal, well, he has been one of the real larger-than-life. You said O'Connor, but guess what? There's another larger-than-life. No, but I don't mean it that way, because we're thinking larger-than-life figures. And who but Cardinal O'Connor and Cardinal Dolan? That's what pops into mind.
Well, it's really interesting because for the most part, most of the cardinals who have come to New York have been larger-than-life figures with, you know.
Except Cardinal Cook, if you really want to go back.
Or
but
Egan was, you know.
And Egan was a little more, you know, he's sort of a patrician type, but nonetheless was a very charming man.
But Cardinals of New York, because of the largeness of the diocese and because it's New York, tend to take on a larger-than-life persona anyway.
And yeah, when you go to the Al Smith dinner, everyone, I mean, there's not one person in that room who didn't know the Cardinal very well, because Cardinal Dolan, because he's just that larger than life. And you know it's going to take time for this man. Tony Aiello I was just talking to, who just had gone to the press conferences and spoken to the new incoming Archbishop, said he thinks he's going to do a lot of listening. A lot of listening, because he knows he's not.
Listening is the watchword of people in politics.
It's brilliant. Yes,
I'm on a listening tour.
We're on a listening tour. And today we've been on a speaking tour, which I think we do every day. But look, I think it's great for the church. I think new blood is great for the church. He's 58 years old. I mean, that could be a long term. And ultimately, you know, let's see what he does with the city. I think he'll do wonderful things. I think it's great to have a new voice.
And do you think it's going to mean more people will come into the church because he's going to be appealing to not only Spanish-speaking New Yorkers, but we have a large immigrant population that would be appealing to as well? I
think it'd be wonderful. And I don't just think it's the immigrant population. I think there are a large group of Catholic New Yorkers, whether people like me who grew up Catholic, you know, St. Anastasia, and it was a community, Marcia, and that's one thing. And it's not just about the church, it's about the synagogue. We have lost community in this country. Yeah. And I think that if you go back to what brings you up as a community, whether it's your church, whether it's your synagogue, whether it's going out and meeting with people, I think that can bring people together, because let's face it, we're all not, those damn right-wingers, those damn left-wingers. You know, if we all just sit and talk, it might be a little better. And maybe the church community, the religious community could help bring people together.
So do you have any predictions for 2026?
Oh, geez. I know I'm hoping to get through tonight, because I didn't know I'd get through the Marcia Kramer show. And I like that name, by the way. Maybe we should, the point to the Marcia Kramer show.
See, you know, the reason I was saying it's like if we had done this last year, we would have said Andrew Cuomo would be the next mayor of the city of New York.
And I don't think we barely mentioned, we barely mentioned Zoran Mamdani last year. He was this much. So yes, there's going to be someone coming out of left field. But I do think the one things we touched on that are very important, I think healthcare is going to go to the top.
Yes.
And I think might be some rough waters for Donald Trump, but he's not going to temper himself. So I was going to say, maybe he just needs to temper himself. Susie Wiles apparently tried, and it's not going to work. But as I always say to you, Marcia, they all keep you in business, because every day there's another story from Marcia Kramer, and I'm sitting there saying, Marcia, whose life are you making miserable today? Today was me, by the way, but I actually had a good time.
Me too. And for that, thank you so much for joining me, and thank you at home for joining us as well.